And I'm delighted, well, I'm not sure I'm delighted to be sitting between these two, because I think it's going to be all hell breaking loose in a minute, and I probably won't get a word in edgeways. To my left is, of course, the legendary Mike Ripley, who's got this wonderful book, an account of thriller writing called Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which is just out and got a great review from my friend Jake Courage in the Telegraph, was it yesterday? And to my right is the award-winning, yet again last night at the dinner, Barry Forshaw, who's of course writes a book about every 2 weeks, as you will realise. He's here to talk about American noir and to defend American noir against the depredations of thrillers. So we're going to start by asking you to applaud them, and then we'll get going. So we've got
exclusion zone. Someone should have...
Is he a security guard or something?
He's forgotten his medication. I apologise.
It's going downhill already. Now, you've been criticised a little bit, if I may say. This is Alex Reeve, if you don't know it. Hysterically on the front row here.
It's Barry's mother.
Your definition of American noir seems slightly dodgy.
Well, yeah, I think the word noir means crime, does it not?
No.
I've really got the audience on my side already, haven't I? The publisher said, I want you to do a series of books with the word noir in the title. And then when I did Brit Noir, I had Alexander McCall Smith in, who's not by any definition the word noir. But then, you know, it means crime, what the hell. Nordic noir, nobody argues with that, do they? Nordic noir is Nordic noir.
But isn't noir to do with a certain bleakness?
It is. If you really want a definition of noir, it's those films of the 1940s, fantastic chiaroscuro, there's Lauren Bacall seducing Humphrey Bogart, rain-swept streets. I don't do that.
It was so early. It was so early.
We didn't expect that.
Yeah, we had a bet on it. How long it would take before he mentioned Nordic noir. Thank you. He's got 10 minutes, I can take that.
And Rich got him at least.
We had a side bet with Barry, so we're going to split that. Yeah, so there is a certain bleakness, and in fact you're trampling on the definition of noir here, really.
I think most, what does it mean? It just means that you can include an author. When I did Brit Noir, I rang up Val McDermid and Ian Rankin just before the Scottish referendum. I said, you will soon be, possibly, a foreign country. Do you want to be in this book? And they said, of course. Why would I not want to be in a book about crime fiction, and that would be an egregious omission? So authors don't mind being in this book, even if this audience objects to my use of the word noir. The authors want it.
So which bit of authors wanted publicity have you not come to terms with?
Now what about your title, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang?
Well,
speaks for itself.
Self-explanatory, just a lot of kissing, a lot of banging. What more do you want?
What do you call a thriller? How do you define a thriller?
Well, I was going to say, to define noir, my mate Ken Bruin, the mad Irish pixie, who writes some very dark stuff, right, always told me his definition was noir is the tunnel at the end of the light.
That's a good line.
Good line. So to try and do the thing with what's the thriller, so basic question, it's best to do an example with finger puppets. But as I don't have any, I'll just say, if you think of Murder on the Orient Express, right? Okay, we're all with me on this? Mm-hmm. There's a train. I mean, I do want to ask an audience, right, everybody's seen Jaws, haven't they?
No.
You've all seen Murder on the Orient Express already.
Yes. Murder on the Orient Express. There's a train. There's a murder. It's a detective story or a crime novel. From Russia with Love, there's a train. The same train. There are at least 2 murders. Well, that's a thriller. Because one is who done it, and the other is how did he get out of this?
That was a missing word then.
There's something wrong with this. So that's basically it's not the puzzle, it's the jeopardy, the suspense, and other things. And you know when you see it. I had a problem. I had a problem with Scots nationalists and tartan noiristas. But I mean, what do I do with somebody like Reg Hill, who was a great mate, a fabulous writer, and did do a couple of thrillers, a couple of spy thrillers, but really was known as a crime writer. So I just had to say, look, you might feel a bit shortchanged that he's not mentioned, because a lot of people have dabbled with the thriller, March Allen, rather than.
But isn't the definition? Laura Wilson and I share guardian duties. She's the guardian crime reviewer, and I am the thriller reviewer. So we meet once a month and carve up the territory. And so we decided that if it's somebody running away from an explosion on the cover, it's a thriller. And then we came up with a more serious definition, which is that in a crime novel, there is a murder, and the solving of the crime is the ultimate aim of it.
Yeah.
In a thriller, the stakes are higher. Somebody's going to release a virus into the air of Bristol and wipe everyone out. So that James Bond is saving the world, usually, or saving Western society. And they're more peripatetic. In thrillers, people travel around. They're never just set in one town, correct?
Usually.
How's that for a definition?
That's not bad, but so coming back to yours, in your noir book, you're covering a range of what? Police procedurals, mysteries, whodunits, whydunits?
Everything. Everything. And the problem was that the publisher's dictum was that it had to be living authors. And authors have a way of popping their clogs. I mean, in every book I've done of these, which is all living authors, somebody invariably dies at publication stage.
Yeah, but I write obituaries, so I don't mind that. I don't mean to be cold about this, but...
But with America, the definition is so wide, because America, as we had on the American Noir panel, which I'm sure some of you went to, it's such a...
There were at least 2 Americans on it.
There were 2 Americans, yes, and 2 Brits. But it's such a wide country, so the whole country has a wide canvas, and you can have a wide canvas of different kinds of books.
So are you including thrillers in this?
Oh yes, yeah.
So I mean, surely the Brits write the best thriller, right? Or the best thriller writers.
Anthony Harvey said to me last night, what happened to the... why have there been no heirs apparent of Alistair MacLean, Hammond Innes? And my theory was that people write crime novels now. Crime novels, the way Thomas Harris did for the horror novel. When Thomas Harris wrote Silence of the Lambs, he sort of co-opted the horror genre. And the horror genre doesn't really exist apart from a few writers now. And in the same way, Joe Nesbo, a thriller writer or a crime writer. I'd say his books read like thrillers.
No,
that wasn't Nordic. I didn't use the word Nordic.
But what's the range of your book? It's a specific period, isn't it?
Specifically at a period when British thriller writers ruled the world, when they really had no right to, actually. From 1953 till about 1975, which was Casino Royale to The Eagle Has Landed. Now, in the 50s, of course, Britain had won the war, except it hadn't really, but it always thought it had alone. It was enormously in debt and living through austerity, which the use of the word today is peanuts compared to what that was. And the empire, the famed British Empire, was falling apart.
So this is the serious underpinning of your book, actually.
So everything now, in cinematic terms, in the 1930s and the Depression, you get Busby Berkeley to do a musical. But in Britain...
Do you mean Busby Berkeley?
Busby Berkeley. Really?
Actually, he's an American.
When I took Marcus Waring at the Berkeley, but in Britain, you got John Mills, Richard Attenborough, and people like that to win the war all over again. And the films of the 50s were all Second World War, Dam Busters.
With Richard Todd usually.
Richard Todd was the other one, yes, you're quite right. Bridge on the River Kwai, and they were all fantastic. And it was plucky Brits winning the war again, and it's sort of into the subconscious. So, if you then got the thriller just took it for granted that we actually had won the war with pluck and determination, and we're just going to ignore all the rest about not being a superpower anymore and go ahead and save the world. That's what they did. Ian Fleming started it, taking lots of tropes really well, and that became what I thought was a spy fantasy. And then Alistair MacLean very quickly came on board with the adventure thriller.
But isn't it interesting that the 2 great crime and thriller writers of the era were friends, Ian Fleming and Raymond Chandler, and they would discuss the demands of their different genres.
You can hear that on there's a BBC.
Well, the title actually comes as corruption of a letter from Ian Fleming to Raymond Chandler in I think 1955, where he says